welcome back to Katie's Favorite Recipes. Today I'm going to be showing you all 3 great crockpot recipes. These are perfect for this hot summer weather. I think you guys are going to love these. The first one is chicken orzo, the second one is cheeseburger macaroni, and the third one is chicken Alfredo. These are all 3 really simple and they can be done in about 2 to 4 hours on high and about 4 to 6 hours on low. So I think you guys are going to love these. Let's go ahead and start with the chicken orzo first. So I started off with this recipe chopping a small onion and just chopping it up into bite-sized pieces. But honestly, if I could go back, I would either mince this onion very small or I would leave it out altogether just because this is such a creamy, soft recipe and the onion was crunchy. And I don't know, we love onions, but I think I would change that if I could. But it was still super good, don't get me wrong. So I'm just going to finish that up. And then I am going to do 2 chicken breasts. I chopped them up. If you don't feel like doing that, you can just put them in their whole and let them cook and shred them when they're done. But I just wanted mine chopped up into little squares. So I'm going to salt and pepper this to taste. And then I'm going to do right now a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I did about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, which is about 4 cloves. And then I just salt and peppered this to taste. And then we're going to put our onion in, and then our half cup of chicken broth. I will put the total amounts of everything I used in the description, but I ended up adding more of the Italian and the chicken broth here in a little bit. But for now, we're just going to do that and cover it. And I cooked mine on high for about 2 hours. And then once that's done, we're going to add our 2 cups of heavy cream and our 2 cups of orzo pasta. If you've never used orzo pasta, I hadn't until this recipe. And it really just reminds me of rice. It's got the same texture and everything is what it seemed like to me. And we liked it. So we're just going to stir that all up really well, cover it, let it cook about 30 to 40 minutes. But I'm going to add another teaspoon of Italian, so that's 2 teaspoons altogether of Italian seasoning. And then I just went in with more salt and pepper, and we're just going to stir that up. Like I said, my crock pot's on high, so everything was pretty quick. So the orzo pasta got done, and it was super thick, so I ended up adding another cup of chicken broth. If you like yours thick, you can just leave it alone. You don't have to do this. But I just wanted it really creamy. So I added my chicken broth. You can also maybe add a little bit more heavy cream. But anyways, I threw in my fresh spinach leaves. And I just did a handful. If you don't like fresh spinach leaves, you do not have to put this in there. You can just do without that. Or you could maybe find some kind of a substitute that you like. But you don't even have to put anything else in it. And I'm going to put my Parmesan cheese in the same time as I did my fresh spinach leaves. And we're going to just stir it up and put the lid on it and let the spinach wilt and the cheese melt, which will take maybe about 5 minutes. And then that's it. It's done. This was a really good weeknight meal. It has a really rich flavor to it. And my family really enjoyed it. So I think you all will too. And it was perfect in the crock pot. I didn't have to worry about, heating up the house and cooking dinner. So for this next recipe, we are doing cheeseburger macaroni in the crock pot. I started off chopping up my onion. I minced it pretty small. And we're just going to chop all that down. And if you want yours a little bit bigger, you can do that. That's fine. And then I did 2 pounds of hamburger meat. And I'm just going to brown this and cook it with my onion. I feel like that gives the hamburger a lot of extra flavor. So we're going to cook those together until everything is good and brown. And we're just going to make this into little small pieces of ground beef. But after we do that, we're going to start putting seasonings on it we like. This is optional, but this is what I used. I did the Montreal steak seasoning, which has salt in it, so I didn't do any salt on the beef. And then I did garlic powder, and I'm just doing this to taste. And we're just going to mix that up. And this really gave it a lot of good flavor, I felt like. I love Montreal steak seasoning on anything beef. So Anyways, I'm just going to finish mashing up my hamburger and letting it cook and get brown. And then once that gets brown, we're going to strain it, and then we are going to move this over to our crock pot. And then I'm going to do my seasonings: 1 teaspoon of pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika. All 1 teaspoon of these. And we're just going to sprinkle that over top of our beef. And then I'm going to go in with a can of cream of potato soup. This is a 10.5 ounce can, so just the standard size. And I'm going to make sure I scrape the can, and then I'm going to pour in my 4 cups of beef broth. And once we do that, we're going to cover this, and we are going to let it all get really hot. So for, I don't know, about 2 hours on high. And then I'm going to go in with my elbow macaroni noodles. I just did a whole box of that. And we're going to stir that up, and then we are going to cover this and let the noodles cook. So that took about 30 to 40 minutes. And then I'm going to chop up a half a block of Velveeta cheese once my noodles are done. And we are going to throw that into the crock pot. And we're going to let that melt down. So that took probably about 10 minutes, I'd say. And we're just going to stir that up really well. This recipe was really good. It was full of flavor. And we're just going to go in with about 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. And really, I mean, you can do as much cheese as you want, or as little cheese as you want. But we're going to mix that up, and we are going to let it melt down, which is going to take about 5 minutes, probably. Depending on what your settings are on your crock pot. And once that's done, I did go in and thin it out just a little bit with some heavy whipping cream. That is totally optional. You don't have to do that. I just did like a splash of it, really. And then we're going to mix that up really well. And I went in with a little bit of broth too to kind of thin it out. But you do not have to do that again. And that's really it. This was super good. It was really easy. And I think you guys are going to really like this. So, there it is. I topped mine with red pepper, and it was really good. It was a perfect weeknight meal. So for this next one, this was probably the easiest of the 3. This was chicken Alfredo in the crock pot. It took less attention, really, than the others. I just let it cook. I just threw it all in there. So I put my chicken breasts in there. I used a little over 1.5 pounds of chicken breast. So there's 3 in there. And then I did my 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then I did about a stick of butter, and we did 2 cups of chicken broth, and then I did a 32 ounce bottle of heavy whipping cream, and I poured that in there, and I also did 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, and then 1 teaspoon of pepper. This was so good. So once we do that, we are going to just give it a little stir, and then we're going to chop our cream cheese. I did a 8 ounce block of cream cheese in this, and I just cubed it up so it would melt down faster. And we're just going to throw that in, and then we're going to cover this, and we are going to let it cook. And after about 2 hours, we're going to pull out our chicken once it's done, and we're just going to shred it up. You can use 2 forks. You can kind of cut it with a knife, however you want to do it, that's easiest. And we're just going to go in and do that to all of our chicken. I've heard some people put theirs in their mixer and just turn it on and it shreds it for them like that. You could do that. But I just wanted to kind of shred and chop mine. So after we do that, we're going to throw it all back in the crock pot. And then we are going to start putting in our pasta. So I did a 16 ounce box, and I used the Penne Pasta. I just poured the whole box in there. And I'm just going to stir that up and make sure that it's all covered. And then we are going to put the lid on that and let it cook for about 30 to 40 minutes. Mine took about 35 on high. And I'm just going to throw in my Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to let that melt down while this pasta cooks. I did about, I would say, a cup or so of Parmesan cheese. But really you can do as much or as little as you want. And I'm just going to put that in there and I'm going to mix it up. And we're just going to cover this up, like I said, and let it cook. Just let it all simmer. But we're just going to give that a stir about halfway through to make sure everything's covered again. And then we're going to cover it back up and let it finish. But this was so good. It was full of flavor. This was probably my favorite out of the three. So I think you guys are going to absolutely love this recipe. So, thanks for watching. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. And I hope that you all enjoy these. I topped mine with red pepper and it was really good. Bye!